The first missile didn't make a sound. At least, that's how Daniel Mercer remembered it. One moment, the world was normal. Traffic humming through Chicago streets, phones buzzing with meaningless notifications, people arguing about politics they barely understood. The next moment, every screen went black. Not flickered. Not glitched. Black. A global silence followed. No alerts. No sirens. No warnings. Then the sky lit up. Daniel stood frozen at the intersection, his coffee slipping from his hand as streaks of white fire carved across the clouds. Dozens. No, hundreds. They moved too fast to be planes, too controlled to be debris. Missiles. World War III had begun. But something was wrong. There were no explosions. Instead, as the missiles reached their targets, cities across the horizon, they simply vanished. Daniel blinked, his brain refusing to process what he was seeing. A woman beside him screamed. A car slammed into a pole as its driver stared skyward. "Where did they go?" someone whispered. Daniel didn't have an answer. No one did. Across the globe, the same impossible scene unfolded. Nuclear warheads, hypersonic weapons, long-range ballistic missiles, all disappearing seconds before impact. It was as if the world itself had swallowed them whole. And then the second phase began. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, in a facility that officially didn't exist, General Marcus Hale stood in a room filled with screens that hadn't gone dark. Unlike the rest of the world, this place had been ready. "Status report," Hale said, his voice steady. "Phase 1 successful," a technician replied. "All incoming projectiles neutralized." Hale nodded once. "Any deviations?" "None, sir." The grid performed exactly as predicted. The room was calm. Too calm for the start of a global war. Hale turned to the central display, where a map of Earth glowed softly. Tiny blue points pulsed across continents and oceans. The shield. Decades in the making. Hidden behind layers of misinformation, black budgets, and deliberate technological stagnation. The world thought it was unprepared. It thought humanity was divided, weak, distracted. That was the point. "Initiate Phase 2, Hale ordered. For a moment, no one moved. Then the technician hesitated. "Sir, that will reveal." "I'm aware," Hale interrupted. "They've made their move. Now we make ours." A pause. Then, "Yes, sir." Back on the surface, Daniel's phone suddenly flickered back to life. A single notification appeared. "Unknown signal." He frowned, thumb hovering over the screen. Around him, others were receiving the same message. A ripple of confusion spread through the crowd. "What is this? Is it a hack? Don't open it." Daniel hesitated, then tapped. The screen filled with static before resolving into a clear image. A man in a military uniform. Not American. Not Russian. Not Chinese. Something else. He looked directly into the camera, his expression calm, almost amused. "People of Earth," he said, his voice echoing through every device on the planet. "You have just witnessed the beginning of your extinction." Gasps erupted around Daniel. The man continued. "Your nations believed they were at war with each other. They were wrong. Your conflict was merely convenient." Daniel's stomach dropped. "No. No way. We have been watching your species for a very long time," the man said. "Waiting. Measuring. Preparing." The image shifted, revealing something that made Daniel's blood run cold. A fleet. Massive, angular ships hanging in orbit above Earth. Cloaked until now. Hidden. Waiting. "You call this World War III," the man said. "We call it First Contact." Deep underground, General Hale didn't flinch. "Incoming transmission confirmed," a technician said. "Source. Extraterrestrial." "Of course it is," Hale muttered. Another officer stepped forward. "Sir, they're revealing themselves globally. Civilian panic is rising rapidly." Hale folded his hands behind his back. "Let them panic," he said quietly. The officer blinked. "Sir." "They need to see it," Hale said. "All of it." He turned back to the glowing map. For decades, humanity had prepared for this moment. Not openly, not proudly, but relentlessly. Every unexplained technological breakthrough, every sudden leap in energy research, every classified satellite launch, all of it had been part of a single plan, because humanity had known. Not everyone, not the public, but enough. Enough to build something extraordinary. "Bring the network online," Hale said. The technician swallowed. "All of it." Hale's gaze hardened. "All of it." Above Earth, the alien fleet shifted. Energy gathered along the edges of their ships, glowing brighter with each passing second. A warning. Or a countdown. Back on the streets, Daniel looked up, his fear slowly being replaced by something else. Confusion. Because the missiles hadn't hit. Because the world hadn't ended. Because something, someone, had stopped it. His phone buzzed again. A second notification. Global broadcast initiated. He tapped it. This time, the screen didn't show the alien. It showed a human. General Marcus Hale. And behind him, something impossible. A structure of light stretching into infinity. "Citizens of Earth," Hale began, his voice steady, unshaken. "Remain calm." Daniel let out a shaky laugh. "Yeah, right." But Hale continued. "Everything you are witnessing has been anticipated." The crowd around Daniel fell silent. "World War III has begun," Hale said. "But not in the way you think." He paused, then delivered the words that would change everything. Humanity was already waiting. Daniel couldn't breathe. The sky above Chicago had stopped being a sky. It had become something else, something oppressive, something alive. Massive alien structures hovered in perfect silence, their shapes shifting slightly as if they weren't entirely bound by the same physics as Earth. People around him were breaking. A man dropped his phone and ran without direction. A woman clutched her child, whispering prayers over and over. Cars were abandoned mid-road, doors left open, engines still running. But Daniel couldn't move. His eyes were locked on his phone. General Hale was still speaking. "For over 40 years," Hale said, his voice calm in a way that felt almost unnatural, "humanity has been engaged in a hidden war." Daniel shook his head slowly. "No, no, that's not possible," he whispered. But the broadcast shifted, and what it showed made his stomach drop. Old footage. Satellite images from decades ago. Strange objects entering Earth's orbit and then vanishing. Classified documents stamped with warnings. Blacked-out files. Military operations no one had ever heard of. "We discovered them long before they revealed themselves," Hale continued. "At first, we believed they were observing. Then we realized they were testing us." Daniel felt a chill run through him. "Testing? You're saying," he muttered, barely able to process it, "this whole time we've been watched?" Deep beneath the Nevada desert, the atmosphere was completely different. No panic. No chaos. Only precision. "Energy spike confirmed," a technician said, eyes locked on a glowing display. "Alien fleet preparing coordinated strike." "Time to impact?" Hale asked. 80 seconds. The room went still. 80 seconds until the end of the world. Except Hale didn't react. He had already lived this moment, hundreds of times, in simulations. "Proceed," he said. A younger officer turned toward him, unable to hide the fear in his voice. "Sir, if the shield fails—" "It won't," Hale said sharply. "Not hope. Not belief. Certainty. The kind that only comes from knowing exactly what's about to happen." Back on the surface, the alien commander reappeared on every device across the planet. "You have disappointed us," he said. His tone wasn't angry. It was worse. It was dismissive. "Your species remained divided. Predictable. Weak." The massive ships above began to glow brighter. A deep vibration spread through the air, low and constant, like the planet itself was bracing for impact. Daniel felt it in his chest, in his bones. "This is it," someone said behind him, voice breaking. But Daniel didn't look away. He couldn't, because something was changing. At first, it was subtle, a shimmer in the air, like heat rising from asphalt. Then the sky, fractured. Lines of blue light spread outward in perfect symmetry, forming a grid so vast it stretched from horizon to horizon. It looked like reality itself had been overlaid with something artificial. "What is that?" someone shouted. Daniel didn't answer. He couldn't, because for the first time since this began, something felt wrong. Not terrifying. Wrong for the aliens. "The shield is fully deployed," a technician confirmed underground. Soft blue light filled the room, reflecting off every surface. Hale folded his arms behind his back. "Good," he said. "Let them fire." The alien fleet unleashed its attack. Beams of pure energy, white-hot, impossibly bright, shot downward toward Earth, each one capable of erasing a city, each one unstoppable. They struck the planet, and stopped. The blue grid held. Energy rippled across it like water hitting glass, spreading outward, weakening, dissolving into nothing. Entire cities that should have vanished remained untouched. Silence followed. Global. Absolute. Even the alien commander paused. "That is not possible," he said slowly. Daniel let out a shaky breath. "They missed," he said, though even he didn't believe it. Because they hadn't missed. Something had stopped them. Something humanity had built. His phone buzzed again. The broadcast switched back to General Hale. "This," Hale said, his voice now carrying something unmistakable, "is what they never understood." Behind him, massive structures pulsed with energy, machines far beyond anything Daniel had ever seen. "They believed we were too divided to prepare," Hale continued, "too distracted to notice." He paused. "They were wrong." Daniel stared at the screen. For the first time since this began, the fear inside him began to shift into something else, something dangerous. Hope. "We learned from them," Hale said. "Every probe, every signal, every attempt to study us, we studied them back." The camera angle widened. Daniel leaned closer. What he saw made his heart race. Weapons. But not like anything on Earth. Not tanks. Not missiles. Something different. Something advanced. Something ready. We didn't just build defenses, Hale said. We built answers. Above Earth, the alien fleet shifted formation. For the first time, their movements weren't perfectly smooth. There was hesitation, uncertainty. They have capabilities beyond predicted models, one alien voice said faintly through the broadcast interference. The commander's expression hardened. Then we escalate, he said. Daniel looked up at the sky again. The ships were still there, still powerful, still terrifying. But now, they didn't look invincible. Back underground, Hale watched the data streams intensify. They're adjusting, a technician said. Of course they are, Hale replied. He stepped forward. Prepare Phase 3. The room went silent again, even among the people who had built this system. Phase 3 was something else. Sir, the technician said carefully, once we initiate that, there's no going back. Hale didn't hesitate. There was never any going back, he said. On the surface, Daniel felt it again. That shift. Stronger this time. Like something massive had just awakened beneath his feet. He looked around. Others felt it too. What was that? Someone asked. Daniel didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the skyline, because far in the distance, something was rising, and for the first time since the war began, Daniel realized something that sent a chill down his spine. This wasn't humanity reacting. This wasn't desperation. This wasn't survival. This was a plan, and it had already begun. Rocket. The ground didn't just shake. It responded. Daniel felt it through his shoes first, a deep, resonating vibration that didn't feel like destruction. It felt controlled, intentional. He turned toward the skyline, his heart pounding, and that's when he saw it. Something was rising. At first, it looked like a distortion in the air, like heat waves bending reality. But then the shape became clearer, solid, massive, and unmistakably artificial. A structure. No, a tower. It unfolded upward from beneath the earth itself, layers of metallic segments sliding into place with impossible precision. Blue energy pulsed along its surface, the same energy as the shield in the sky. People around Daniel fell silent. Even the panic stopped. "What is that?" someone whispered. Daniel swallowed. "It's ours," he said, and for the first time he believed it. Across the world, the same scene was repeating. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the surface split open as colossal platforms rose from the depths, water cascading off their sides like waterfalls. In Siberia, frozen ground cracked apart as buried installations powered on, glowing lines of energy spreading outward like veins beneath the ice. In the Sahara, dunes shifted violently as ancient. Hidden machinery emerged from beneath centuries of sand. Humanity's secrets were waking up. All of them. Deep beneath Nevada, alarms didn't blare. They synchronized. "Global activation confirmed," a technician reported. "All hidden facilities are online." Hale stood at the center of the command room, watching it unfold. Decades of preparation. Thousands of people working in complete secrecy. Entire generations dedicating their lives to something they could never talk about. All for this moment. Energy levels? Hale asked. Stable across all sectors. No fluctuations. Synchronization. Perfect. Hale allowed himself the smallest nod. Then we proceed. Above Earth, the alien fleet adjusted formation again. But this time, it wasn't calm. "They are deploying planetary scale systems," one alien officer said, urgency creeping into their voice. "This exceeds all predictive models." The commander's eyes narrowed. "That level of coordination is not natural for a species like this." "Then they've changed," another replied. "The first human weapon fired." Daniel didn't hear it. He didn't see a flash. He barely even noticed it happen. One moment, the alien ship was there. The next, it wasn't. There was no explosion. No debris. Just a sudden, violent distortion in space itself. The ship collapsed inward, like it had been crushed by an invisible hand. Gone. Daniel's mouth opened slightly. "They just erased it," he whispered. Underground, a technician spoke quickly. "Direct hit confirmed. Target eliminated." Hale didn't react outwardly. "Next target," he said. More weapons activated. Some fired beams so precise they looked like lines drawn across reality itself. Others didn't fire anything visible at all. Alien ships simply froze in place, systems shutting down instantly before drifting lifelessly in orbit. A few weapons bent light, distorting entire sections of space until enemy vessels tore themselves apart trying to stabilize. Every attack was different. Every attack was calculated. Daniel felt his fear begin to fade. Not completely, but enough. Because this wasn't chaos. This wasn't desperation. This was control. "We're not just fighting," he said slowly. "We're winning." Above, the alien fleet broke formation. For the first time since their arrival, their movements weren't perfect. "They are countering faster than expected," an alien officer reported. "They shouldn't have this level of adaptation," another added. The commander remained silent for a moment. Then, "They are not adapting," he said. "They are executing." Back on Earth, the rising towers began to change. Panels shifted. Energy intensified. The structures weren't just weapons. They were nodes. Connected. Part of something bigger. Hale stepped closer to the main display. "Link all systems," he ordered. "Already in progress," the technician replied. Global network reaching full integration. Lines of light appeared across the map of Earth. Every installation, every weapon, every hidden system, connected. "Good," Hale said quietly. "Now we stop holding back." Daniel's phone buzzed again. The broadcast returned. Hale's face filled the screen once more. "What you are witnessing," he said, "is the result of 40 years of preparation." Behind him, the massive structures pulsed brighter. "We did not build these systems for war," he continued. "We built them to ensure humanity would never be at the mercy of a more advanced species again." Daniel looked back at the sky. Alien ships were still there, still dangerous. But now they were being pushed back, destroyed, outmatched. A new wave of alien attacks began. Faster, more aggressive. Beams struck the shield in rapid succession, trying to overload it. The blue grid flared brighter with each impact. For a moment, it looked like it might break. "Shield integrity dropping," a technician warned. 78%. 72. Hale didn't flinch. "Divert power from secondary systems," he said. "Reinforce the grid." Across the planet, the towers responded. Energy surged upward, feeding into the shield. The grid stabilized, held. Above, the alien commander watched in silence. "They are using the planet itself as a weapon," an officer said. "No," the commander replied slowly. "They are using it as a system." Daniel exhaled deeply. They were holding. actually holding, against something that should have destroyed them instantly. But then something else happened. Something new. Something bigger. High above Earth, beyond the visible fleet. Space shifted. More ships. Larger. Heavier. Arriving. Daniel's heart dropped. "No," he whispered. Underground, alarms changed tone. "New contacts detected," a technician said urgently. "Reinforcements. Massive scale." Even Hale paused this time. "How many?" he asked. The technician hesitated. "Too many." Silence filled the room. Then Hale straightened. "Good," he said. The room froze. "Sir." \N\N Hale's eyes locked onto the screen. \N\N, because now, he said, his voice steady and cold, \N\N, they're all here. \N\N, \N\N back on the surface. Daniel stared at the sky as more alien ships filled the darkness. \N\N, the battle wasn't ending. \N\NIT was escalating. \N\N, for the first time since humanity revealed its strength. \N\N, the real war was about to begin. Rocket. The sky was no longer a battlefield. It was a storm. Daniel stood frozen as more alien ships poured into orbit, blotting out the stars. The darkness above wasn't night anymore. It was movement. Endless. Shifting. Overwhelming. "They're multiplying," someone whispered nearby. No one corrected them, because it felt true. The First Fleet had been terrifying. This was something else entirely. Daniel's chest tightened. For a brief moment, that fragile hope inside him cracked. "How do we fight that?" he muttered. Deep underground, General Hale watched the same thing unfold. New signatures flooded the displays. Hundreds, then thousands of incoming vessels. "Reinforcement fleet confirmed," a technician said, voice strained. "Massive scale. This is no longer an invasion force. It's a full armada." Another officer turned toward Hale. "Sir, if they overwhelm the shield." "They won't," Hale said. But this time, it wasn't just confidence. It was resolve. Hale stepped forward. "Begin full deployment," he ordered. The room went silent. Even here, even among those who built humanity's hidden defenses, those words carried weight. "Sir, full deployment means—" "No more secrets," Hale said. "No more restraint." Across the planet, something changed. In orbit, human ships that had just entered the fight began to transform. Panels shifted. Structures expanded. Weapons that had remained dormant powered on. They weren't just defensive vessels. They were warships. Daniel saw it happen above Chicago. The human ship hovering in the sky suddenly pulsed with light. Sections of its hull rotated outward, revealing glowing cores of energy. It looked alive, not mechanical, evolving. "What is that thing?" Daniel whispered. A voice came through every device again. "Hale, this is the moment humanity has been preparing for," he said. His tone had changed. No longer calm reassurance. Now, it carried something heavier, something final. "For decades we hid our progress," Hale continued. "We allowed ourselves to appear divided, weaker than we truly were." Daniel frowned. "Allowed," he repeated. "We let them watch," Hale said. "We let them believe they understood us." The camera zoomed out, showing multiple human ships rising across the globe. They thought humanity was predictable. Hale paused. They were wrong. Above Earth, The alien fleet adjusted rapidly. "They are escalating," an alien officer said. "Human forces increasing output exponentially." The commander's expression darkened. "Then we crush them now," he said. The alien armada attacked. Not in waves. Not in patterns. But all at once. Thousands of weapons fired simultaneously, flooding space with energy. For a moment, it looked like the sky itself had ignited. Daniel flinched. "This is it," he said under his breath. But the shield held. Barely. The blue grid flared violently, absorbing impossible amounts of energy. It flickered for the first time, cracks of light spreading across its surface. Shield integrity dropping, a voice echoed from nearby screens. Underground, the numbers fell rapidly. 60%, 52. Hale didn't hesitate. "Redirect all non-essential power," he ordered. "Push everything into the grid." "Sir, that will disable." "Do it." Across Earth, systems shut down. Cities dimmed. Satellites went dark. Entire power grids sacrificed. All for one purpose. The shield surged. Stabilized. Held. Daniel exhaled sharply. "They're still holding," he said. But his voice shook. Because he knew. They couldn't do that forever. And then, everything changed. Hale gave the next command. "Launch the fleet." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, from every corner of the planet, they rose. Ships. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. Not just from visible bases, but from places no one had ever suspected. The ocean split open as massive carriers emerged. Mountain ranges revealed hidden hangars. Even beneath major cities, launch platforms activated, sending ships screaming into the sky. Daniel's eyes widened. This was all here," he said. No one answered. Because no one knew. The human fleet entered orbit. And for the first time, it matched the alien armada. But there was one difference. The alien fleet moved like a machine. Precise. Predictable. Optimized. The human fleet moved like something else entirely. Alive. They didn't just attack. They adapted. Human ships broke formation, weaving through enemy fire with unpredictable movement. Some split into smaller units mid-flight. Others absorbed incoming attacks and redirected the energy back outward. Every action felt creative, unpredictable, dangerous. "They're not following patterns," an alien officer reported. "They're improvising." The commander stared at the battlefield. "That makes them more dangerous," he said. Daniel watched in awe. Human ships darted between alien vessels, striking weak points with impossible precision. Some attacks disabled entire clusters of ships at once. Others created shock waves that disrupted formations. For the first time, the alien fleet was being pushed back. "We're actually winning," Daniel said, disbelief in his voice. Underground, Hale monitored the battlefield. "Enemy formations destabilizing," a technician reported. "Good," Hale said. "Keep pressure on them." But even as he spoke, more alien ships continued arriving. Endless. Relentless. This wasn't over. Not even close. Hale looked at the data, calculated, adjusted, then gave the order. "Prepare final phase." The room went still. Even the most experienced officers exchanged glances. "Sir," one said quietly, "if we activate that, we expose everything." Hale didn't look away from the screen. That was always the cost, he said. Back on the surface, Daniel felt the air shift again, stronger than before. He looked up. The sky was still full of war, still burning, still chaotic. But something else was happening, something deeper, below the surface, across the entire planet. Something massive was waking up. Daniel felt it in his chest, in the ground, in the air. "What is that?" he whispered. Far below, Hale gave the command. "Bring it online." The lights in the facility dimmed. Power surged. Systems aligned. And for the first time since the war began, even the alien fleet hesitated, because whatever humanity had been hiding was finally about to be revealed. The hesitation lasted less than a second, but it was enough. Enough for the alien fleet to feel it. Enough for humanity to seize it. High above Earth, something shifted. Not in the ships. Not in the battle. In space itself. Daniel felt it before he understood it. A deep, unnatural pressure, like the air had suddenly become heavier, thicker, harder to breathe. "What's happening?" he whispered. Across the battlefield, both fleets slowed. Not physically, but instinctively, as if something far greater had just entered the equation. Deep beneath Nevada, the command center had gone completely silent. Every screen glowed the same color. Blue. Brighter than before. Alive. "Core systems online," a technician said, barely above a whisper. "Global synchronization at 100%. Another voice followed. "Planetary array. Fully active." General Hale stood at the center of it all. Still. Focused. Waiting. For decades, this moment had existed only in theory. Too dangerous to test. Too powerful to reveal. Too important to fail. "Status," Hale said. "Energy output stable," the technician replied. "All nodes connected." A pause. Then, "We're ready." Hale closed his eyes for a brief moment. Not out of fear, but out of understanding. Once this happened, there was no going back. Not for humanity. Not for anyone. He opened his eyes. Execute. Across the entire planet. Everything changed. The towers Daniel had seen earlier, those massive structures rising from the earth, began to glow brighter than ever before. Lines of energy shot between them, forming a web that wrapped around the entire planet. But this wasn't the shield. This was something else. Something bigger. Daniel stared upward, his heart pounding. "What is that?" he whispered again. But this time, he wasn't afraid. Above Earth, the alien fleet reacted instantly. "Massive energy surge detected," one officer shouted. "Source, planetary surface. Magnitude, unknown." The commander stepped forward. For the first time, there was uncertainty in his eyes. "What are they doing?" he demanded. No one answered, because no one knew. Back on Earth, Hale spoke, not just to his team, but to the entire world. "This is humanity's final defense," he said. His voice was calm, steady, unshaken. "For decades, we prepared not just to survive an attack, but to ensure no species could ever threaten us again." The energy network intensified. The entire planet now pulsed with power. "We call it," Hale paused, "the Aegis Protocol." Daniel felt the name echo in his mind. Aegis. A shield. A weapon. Something more. Then, it activated. There was no explosion, no flash, no sound, just a ripple. A wave of energy spread outward from Earth in every direction. Not fast, not slow, inevitable. The alien fleet tried to react. Weapons powered, shields activated, ships repositioned. Too late. The wave hit, and everything changed. Alien ships froze mid-movement. Weapons shut down instantly. Energy systems collapsed. Entire vessels lost power and began drifting silently through space. "What is happening?" an alien officer shouted. The commander stared in disbelief. "They're not attacking," he said slowly. "They're disabling us." Back on Earth, Hale watched the results unfold. "No destruction," a technician confirmed. "Full system suppression across all targets." Hale nodded. Exactly as designed. Daniel couldn't believe what he was seeing. The alien fleet, the same force that had nearly wiped out humanity, was being shut down, without a single explosion. "They're not destroying them," he said. "They're just turning them off." For the first time since the invasion began, the sky grew quiet. No beams, no attacks, no movement, just silence. The alien commander's screen filled with failures. All systems unresponsive. Power loss across the fleet. Control systems offline. The commander clenched his fists. "This is impossible," he whispered. But deep down, he understood. This wasn't impossible. This was preparation. This was what happened when a species refused to stay weak. Back on Earth, Hale turned back to the global broadcast one final time. "They believed this would be World War III," he said. His voice carried across every device, every screen, every human being on the planet. "They believed we would destroy ourselves before they ever needed to act." He paused. "They were wrong." Daniel looked up at the sky. Alien ships, once unstoppable, now drifted helplessly. Human ships surrounded them, watching, controlling, dominating. For the first time, the fear was gone, completely. In its place was something else. Pride. Hale continued. "Humanity is no longer a species waiting to be judged." His expression hardened. "We are no longer prey." A pause. "We are no longer unprepared." Daniel smiled slightly, because now he understood. This war was never about survival. It was about proving something to the enemy, to the stars, to themselves. Hale delivered the final line. This wasn't World War III. His voice dropped. This was humanity's first victory beyond Earth. The broadcast ended. The sky cleared slowly. The blue grid faded. The energy network dimmed. But the human fleet remained, guarding, watching, ready. Daniel took a deep breath. The world hadn't ended. It had changed. Forever. And somewhere beyond the silent fleet, beyond the drifting alien ships, beyond the darkness of space, something else was watching. Because now, humanity wasn't hidden anymore, and the galaxy had finally noticed. Rocket.